right? Now let's talk about the elements of weather. What do we know about the elements of the weather? There are basically four elements of the weather. First is temperature, then you have humidity, you have rainfall and wind speed. So these are the elements that are measured, so that you can predict the weather. When we talk about the definition of weather, what we have studied up till now, with this we can actually give you, and you can understand the definition of weather. What is the definition of weather? The day-to-day condition with respect to the elements of the weather, that is your rainfall, temperature, humidity, wind speed at a particular place is called the weather of that place, right? Day-to-day condition. This is an important term, that weather actually is changing from day to day, right? So this is weather, and please remember this point very clearly, because this is how we are going to distinguish between weather and climate. Now, let's start talking about the different elements of the weather. The very first element that we are going to talk about is humidity. So, humidity is the measure of water vapor that is present in the air, right? So, during the summer seasons, when the summer is when the monsoon starts coming and it's still hot, what happens is that the humidity in the environment increases. Suppose say on Monday it rained, right? Let's say it rained on Monday, and on Tuesday the temperature was really high, right? So on Tuesday the temperature was really high. What will happen? That on Tuesday you will find that the percentage of humidity will be more, because of the rain, the water vapor will be formed, and actually humidity increases, and it causes the moisture. You will feel a little moisture on your skin as well, and it is not a very comfortable condition, right? So this is humidity. It's one of the major elements of the weather. What is used to measure the humidity? So hygrometer is used to measure the humidity. Like I told you, the meteorological department keeps the data, right? So for collecting the data, definitely they would need to measure different elements. So when we talk about humidity, how do we measure it? So we measure it with the help of your hygrometer. So this is an example of a hygrometer, right? Now, moving on to the next important element, that is rainfall. Now, I'm pretty sure I don't need to explain what rainfall is, but I'm going to tell you that how we measure the rainfall. Now, you all must know that there are certain areas in India which receive low rainfall, whereas others area receive high rainfall. When we talk about low or high rainfall, how do we measure it? When we are talking about in a general term, we know that Rajasthan, being a desert, receives less rainfall. In general, we are talking. And when we are talking about, say, northeast, the area known as Cherrapunji, we know that the rainfall there is a lot. It receives a lot of rainfall throughout the year. So this is how, when we talk about in general terms, we measure the rainfall. But professionally, when the meteorological department needs to measure the rainfall, it measures the rainfall with the help of rain gauge, right? This is an instrument which is used to measure the rainfall. Now it looks something like this, right? It is attached, it has a funnel-like structure where there is marking, that is 5 mm, 10 mm, 15, 20, 25, 30 mm, and so on. There are bigger rain gauges as well. So when you must have heard that whenever anyone is talking about how much rainfall occurred during the monsoon or in a day. So whenever reporting about the rainfall, people say that today in, say, Rajasthan, there was 20 mm rainfall. So where does this 20 mm comes from? I'm pretty sure you must have wondered that rainfall is actually what? It is your liquid, right? Rain is water. So how is it measured in mm? right? So this is how it is measured because of the markings that is present on these rain gauge. When the water starts, when it starts raining, it is filling up the rain gauge, right? And when it stops, how much it has filled is the measure of the rain on that particular day. Suppose on Monday it was 20 mm, then on Tuesday it was say 30 mm, right? And so on, right? And we know that the rain monsoon season starts in India from say July, let's say in an area like say north, it starts from July and ends in September, right? So how do we know what is the average rainfall? So every day the meteorological department is collecting this data, and to tell you that what is the average, they collect the data and they take out the average, and they will let you know that on an average the rainfall was say 60 millimeter, right? In this way, we get to know that whether an area in general receives a lot of rainfall or it receives less rainfall, right? So this is one of the major elements. This is a very important element. Why? Because it also helps in determining the the fauna, that is the plants that will be growing in that area, right? Depending on how much rain is falling, depending on that we measure or we explain that okay, this rainfall, because Rajasthan receives less rainfall, so the flora is scarce, right? Now this is the rain gauge, which you will see that the structure is basically a funnel that is connected to a measuring cylinder, right? So this is what it is called as the rain gauge. Now let's move on and talk about the other element of the weather, that is the temperature. So when we are talking about temperature, we always measure the temperature in two forms. First is the maximum temperature of the day and other is the minimum temperature of the day, and it is recorded every single day, right? So all the time meteorological department is measuring it. So this is measured by the maximum minimum thermometer, right? So this is the thermometer that we are talking about. It is the maximum and minimum thermometer, right? So this is used to measure the maximum and minimum temperature of a particular day, and it is measured every day and a record is kept. Why the record is kept, we are going to talk about it in this session, and we'll understand the importance of keeping this record. So now when we've studied about the elements of weather, and we've seen that how fickle these elements are, especially when we talk about the temperature, the rainfall and the humidity, we see that they change every day, and that is why we say that weather is a very complex phenomena, and the weather actually changes within an hour, right? So it is such a complex phenomena and such dynamic phenomena that we do not know. Suppose it's cloudy, right? In the morning you're sitting out, it's cloudy, it's a pleasant day, and it's not there's no rainfall, but there are clouds. So maybe within within 1 hour there will be a lot more clouds will come into the area, and it will start raining. Because of this very phenomena, that we say that weather is a very dynamic and a complex phenomena which changes within hours, right? Now the fourth element that we were talking about is wind speed, right? Why we talk about wind speed and why is it important? Because wind speed helps in various phenomena. For example, if there is no wind, right? So we'll observe that when it's raining and there is no wind or very little wind, it might rain for a longer period of time, because if the wind speed is really high, it causes storms, it causes cyclones, and many a times what happens is it will cause the clouds to drift away. So if it is raining and suppose the wind speed is really high, so it might only rain for like say half an hour, and then that's it. Because of the wind, the clouds might fly away, right? So that is why it is also important to talk about wind speed, because it is the fourth and important element of your weather. Now, to understand the complexity and how dynamic the weather is, this is the record of Meghalaya from 3rd August 2006 to 9th August 2016. So this is the record of few days, that is on 3rd August the maximum temperature was 26 degree, on 4th it was 23.5, on 5th 25, and so on. You are seeing that each day how the temperature is changing. On the basis of this data, a graph is plotted over here. You can see the graph that how the weather pattern is so erratic, right? You can see how the maximum temperature itself has so many changes in it, right? So in this way, when you look at this data and when you look at the graph, you see the dynamic nature of the weather, and like we said, that how this weather actually changes immediately is seen in this particular chart. Now, when we talk about maximum and minimum temperature, you might be wondering that when do we measure the maximum temperature and when do we measure the minimum temperature, or rather how do we know that what is the maximum temperature? So usually students, the maximum and the minimum temperature are measured during the day at a particular time. So when we talk about the maximum temperature, it is measured in the afternoon. Why it is measured in the afternoon? Because at that point of time the sun is at its highest and it is the hottest part of the day, right? So in the whole 24 hours, afternoon is the hottest part of the day, and that's the reason why the maximum temperature is measured during that time. When we are talking about the minimum temperature is measured in the early morning time. So early morning, that means it's just before the sunrise, right? So that time we measure the minimum temperature because that is the coolest part of the day, right? So in this way we measure the maximum temperature and we measure the minimum temperature. It is important to capture both of these temperatures because this shows that what is the range in which the temperature might dip and might it will spike up. So now when you look at the maximum temperature and the minimum temperature measurements, you will observe that there is one particular phenomena which is influencing a lot of things which are going on in the weather. Let's talk about that what phenomena is actually, what body is actually influencing the maximum and the minimum temperature, and we will see that this celestial body is actually causing the weather patterns also to change, right? So before that, let's answer a question that, so we see that all the changes in the weather occurs because of sun. All changes in weather occurs due to sun, right? How does this happen? Because we know that our earth is actually taking revolutions around the sun, and this sun provides the energy to the earth, right? So before we understand that how it influences the temperature on earth, let's understand a little about the sun. What do we already know? First of all, we know that sun is a huge sphere of hot gases, right? Also, we know the temperature of the sun is very high. Now you can imagine how high the temperature is, that from so far away also we are able to receive the warmth, and when during the summers we find that the temperature rises up to 50 degrees Celsius also. So you can see that how hot the temperature is, and because of this particular phenomena we are able to receive the warmth of the sun, right? So it has a very high temperature, right? Then apart from that, sun is very large, right? So it's a huge body, it's a huge celestial body. There a small earth is just like a dot in front of the sun, right? So there can we can fit so many earth in the the sun, because the sun is very, very large, right? So now this is all about the sun. Let's see how it influences the weather of a particular place. Now, because of all these reasons that the sun has a huge size, the temperature is really high. So all the source of energy, right, all source of energy on earth is the sun, right? Whether we talk about heat or light, right? Both of these energies are, we receive through the sun, and we see both of these energies are really important for our survival, right? So, sun is the source of all the energy that is present on the earth. Now, let's talk about how it influences the temperature of an area. So when the heat of the sun comes into the earth, we know that earth is covered with the atmosphere. What happens is that the different surfaces of the earth, that is your oceans, right, land, these surfaces, what they do is they absorb some of the energy, and rest of the energy is reflected back, right? The atmosphere traps some of the energy, and because of this phenomena of absorbing and reflecting of the energy of the sun is causing the weather to change. Now, if let's understand this with the help of an example. Let's understand this with an example that suppose you're living near the sea. You will find that the temperature near the sea, or the weather near the sea, is different from that of the desert, right? The land and the ocean surfaces play an important role in determining the weather of a place, depending on what kind of this land is. Now we know, and we've studied a lot, you must have studied it in geography also, that Himalayas play a very important role in providing rain to the north region of of India, because they block the wind, right? So the landscape of a place also helps in the capturing the energy and reflecting the energy of the sun. When the sun's temperature, during the summer, when the temperature is really high, what happens is that the oceans, in the oceans we see that there is evaporation taking place. Also in the ponds, in the rivers, the evaporation is taking place, and it causes the water cycle, right? And during this water cycle we receive rain. So over here also you're seeing that because of the sun's energy, the evaporation is taking place. So in this way we see that all the energy that is present on the earth is because of the sun. So we can say that sun is the ultimate source of energy for us, and it causes the weather patterns to change in a particular area. Right, students? So in this way we see that what exactly is weather, what are the different elements of weather, and how it influences your day-to-day life. Right? So once we've understood about weather, next we are going to talk about climate.